really thought about what's going on when someone gets jaundice? I mean, it's more than just skin turning a bit yellow. It's actually a pretty fascinating biological story, a signal, really, from deep inside your body. So today, let's unravel the mystery behind this yellow warning sign.
And we're going to start with the most striking, most unmistakable sign of all. The white of the eye, what's called the sclera, has turned this vivid yellow. This one picture really hits us with the central question for this whole explainer. What on earth is causing this, and what is the body trying to tell us?
All right, to answer that, we've got to get our terms straight first. We've seen the signs, so now let's figure out exactly what it represents, and just as importantly, what it doesn't. Okay, here's the most crucial thing to understand right off the bat. Jaundice isn't a disease in itself. Think of it more like a fever. It's a symptom. It's the yellow color you see when a specific substance called bilirubin builds up in your blood. The technical term is hyperbilirubinemia, which really just means too much bilirubin. And it's surprisingly specific. This whole yellowing thing only becomes visible to the naked eye when those bilirubin levels creep up above 3 milligrams per deciliter. Any lower than that, and you'd probably never even know it was there.
So where do you spot it first? Well, it almost always shows up in the whites of the eyes before anywhere else. And there's a cool reason for that. The sclera is packed with a protein called elastin, and it turns out bilirubin has a special affinity for it. It just loves to stick to it, making the eyes a really clear early warning sign.
This brings up something you might be wondering about. Can you actually turn yellow from eating, say, way too many carrots? And the answer is yes. It's a real thing called keratinoderma. But here's the dead giveaway to tell the difference. Keratin from carrots will stain your skin, but it leaves your eyes completely alone. So if the skin's yellow but the eyes are white, probably just the carrots. But if the eyes are yellow, that's jaundice.
Okay, so we've established that the yellow color is coming from this molecule called bilirubin. But to really get what jaundice is all about, we have to play detective and trace this culprit all the way back to its source.
This is really the heart of our investigation, right? We've got our substance, bilirubin, but where does the body get it from? Is it something we're eating, something we're breathing in? Well, the answer is actually much closer to home.
Believe it or not, the source is your own body's amazing recycling system. See, your red blood cells don't last forever. Every single day, old ones are broken down, and bilirubin is basically the yellowish waste product that's left over. It's a totally normal part of your body's internal cleanup crew just doing its job.
And we're not talking about tiny trace amounts here. Your body is producing and has to deal with about 250 to 300 milligrams of this stuff every single day. That means you need a really robust, efficient system to handle all of it.
And that brings us to the main event, the incredible three-step journey that bilirubin takes through the body to be removed safely. When this whole process goes smoothly, you never even have a clue that it's happening. Okay, now this diagram might look a little complicated at first glance, but don't worry. Just think of it as our roadmap. It shows the entire life cycle of bilirubin from start to finish. We're just going to walk through it, one step at a time, to see how the body so masterfully manages this waste product. So this journey has three main stages, three big stops. First, it's created and starts traveling in the blood. Second, it arrives at the liver, which is like the main processing plant. And third, it gets shipped out of the body through the intestines. Let's follow a single molecule of bilirubin and see what happens. Our journey begins. Right after it's made from an old red blood cell, bilirubin is in a state called unconjugated. Now this is super important because it means it can't dissolve in water, and your blood is mostly water. So to get anywhere, it has to hitch a ride on a special transport protein called albumin. Think of albumin as its personal taxi, shuttling it through the bloodstream. Next stop, the liver. And this is probably the most critical step of the whole journey. The liver grabs that unconjugated bilirubin and, using a special enzyme, it totally changes its chemical structure. It conjugates it, which is a fancy way of saying it makes it water-soluble. It transforms it from a problem substance that's hard to get rid of into one that can be easily flushed right out of the body. So now that it's water-soluble, the liver can finally get rid of it. It dumps the conjugated bilirubin into bile, which then flows into your small intestine. And once it's there, the trillions of bacteria living in your gut get to work on it, converting it into a new substance called stercobilinogen.
And here is the grand finale, the final destination. Most of that stercobilinogen gets converted into something called stercobilin, and that is the very pigment that gives stool its characteristic brown color. Meanwhile, a little bit gets reabsorbed back into the blood, goes to the kidneys, and is excreted as urobilinogen, which is what gives urine its yellow color. How cool is that? That one waste product is responsible for both of those colors we see every day.
So, if that's the beautifully orchestrated journey when everything's working right, what happens when it all goes wrong? Well, jaundice is what happens. It pops up when there's a glitch, a breakdown, at some point along this three-step pathway we just followed.
Doctors actually classify the causes into three main buckets, and they map perfectly onto the journey we just learned. There can be a problem before the liver, a problem in the liver, or a problem after the liver. Simple as that. So let's quickly break that down. A prehepatic issue means there's just way too much bilirubin being made in the first place. Maybe too many red blood cells are breaking down at once. The liver is working fine, but it's just completely overwhelmed. Hepatic means the processing plant itself, the liver, is sick or damaged and just can't do its job. And post-hepatic means the exit route is blocked. The liver did its job, but something, maybe a gallstone, is physically blocking the pipe so the bilirubin can't get out. Understanding these three potential failure points is what allows us to see jaundice for what it really is. It's not just a weird color. It's a message, a piece of biological data that's packed with valuable information.
And we can actually read these signals to figure out what's going on. For instance, think about that post-hepatic blockage, where the exit is blocked. If bilirubin can't get to the intestines, then there's no stercobilinogen to make the stool brown, and the result? The stools become pale. So that single clue, combined with yellow skin, points a doctor right toward a blockage problem.
So, when you really get down to it, the yellowing of the eyes and skin isn't the problem. It's a profound, if a little alarming, form of communication. It's your body telling you that its finely tuned system of recycling and waste disposal has been disrupted. And the key is to see past the symptom, to see past the yellow, and to ask the much more important question: what is your body trying to tell you?